Some leftists in Finland, how you doing, folks? This video is just going to be me rambling about the upcoming 2023 elections, just a small part of them, the most consequential part, which is it looks like the nationalist right-wing party is going to be either taking over or working very, very closely with the center-right neoliberal do-nothing National Coalition Party. So what that means is Finland is going to be facing the worst of social policy with the racist, xenophobic Finns party, and so many other things. There are a lot of misogynists in there too. And the worst of economic policy with the National Coalition Party, which is all about, of course, tax breaks for the rich. To think in the year 2023, all the economic studies that have been done, all of the economies that have been ruined by Republican or right-wing economic policies, we still have people who think that if you cut taxes for the rich, that money's going to trickle on down to the working class. Well, it must not be working because income inequality in Finland is the worst in, who knows, I can't remember the amount of time, but it's very, very bad here. So if you're in America and you're still looking to Northern Europe as this like paradise, I warn you, things are getting bad and they're going to get worse probably. Because by at least what the polls show is that Finns and National Coalition are going to take the top and SDP is going to go to number 3. And speaking of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, Sanna Marin had the gall, oh my God, the other day in a debate with an NCP person, she said that the Finns party is openly racist. And people just could not handle that. People went out of their minds. They're like, oh my God, how could you tell the truth? You're supposed to be just the average politician who spits platitudes and says things like, well, my friends on the, across the aisle here, they might have a few bad apples. They got more than a few bad apples. There are a lot of fucking bad apples in that party. And oh, by the way, there is a party that's even further to the right of the Finns party. And that party that is self-described as fascist, some members of the youth wing of the Finns party, that's right, the youth wing of the Finns party helped build this fascist party that somehow got enough signatures to become a party. And people can't understand, like, how can we be seen as all this racist? Because you're not really doing a whole hell of a lot to help migrants. The migrants that this country sorely needs or will sorely need in like 30 years. I made these predictions in a video that I made last year called Finland is Kind of Screwed. And I got a lot of Finnish people on there, spitting all over me, providing very little evidence to back up their claims that I was full of shit. But yeah, the things like the falling birth rate and the rising death rate and all the pensioners going to grab their pensions because the pensions increased with inflation, and just the idea that this country is so geographically remote and so hostile towards people who are not Finnish or white, especially if they're Muslim. And the common refrain is, not all Muslims are terrorists. And this is from the Finns party. And I've heard at least 3 of them say this, members of parliament. But most terrorists these days are Muslim. And it still goes to demean an entire group of people based on the actions of a few. And oh, by the way, not that long ago, right here in jolly old Northern Europe, there are 77 fucking people killed by a Christian terrorist. A Christian terrorist. And it happens all the time in the United States. It still happens all the time, all the way around this world. So to think that they're coming to spread that kind of behavior, to think that they're coming to take your culture, they are literally afraid that their culture is going to be taken away by Muslims. Like spreading Islam is going to, just like the United States, where there's been no evidence of that happening whatsoever there's no evidence of that happening here, and there's no evidence that that could even happen here, because people in Finland are very, very strongly attached to their culture. There's no way they would let it happen if somebody actually did come in and find the power to ruin the Finnish culture. It's just another way of hiding their racism. It's another way of trying to justify their racism and say that, hey, I don't hate Muslims because they're Muslim, but look what they're doing over here and what they're doing over here. And they're going to try to spread their way of life to us. And there's just no factual basis for that. And a lot of them don't even want work-based immigration. Riikka Purra, the gargoyle-looking head of the Finns party, has said as much, that we either want to severely restrict, limit, or do away with work-based immigration. And it's like, well, that'll work really well once you start giving those tax cuts to the rich and gutting social welfare programs. Now you won't have people coming into your party to work because you won't let them because they're not white. You need to leave Finland for the Finns. You know, it's things like that happen that make me think that, yeah, maybe things aren't going so well, that aren't so rosy, and some of these things need to be rethought. Maybe there needs to be more effort made to protect vulnerable people in this society. It's looking to me more and more every single day that the only way out of the mess this country is, or this whole world is going to be in, because of climate change, because of disease, because of nuclear war, we should be working together more, not pushing people out. We need to be bringing people in. And if you live in a country where your birth rate is really low, barely enough to replace the people leaving the working population, if you have that problem now, imagine what it's going to look like in 20 or 30 years. And there's no way you're going to be able to incentivize a generation of people to have kids when everything is as fucked up as it is, because you're still coddling the old people. You're protecting their pensions, which is fine. But when you give them more incentive to collect their pensions than you give the young people to work, you've got a problem. And it doesn't seem to matter to the Finnish people, because it looks as though the Finns party and NCP are going to be, or it's going to be 1 and 2, one way or the other, and SDP is going to drop down to third, and Progress is going to be pushed back yet another. However long NCP and the Finns party want to push it back. I can't believe anybody would want to work with the Finns party. Why anybody would want to caucus with them? You look so guilty by association, and you're all white, so people are just going to look at you and look at the fact that you're aligned with these people. You're known by the fucking company you keep, especially in politics. Especially in politics. Anybody who wants to tell me that the Finns party is not openly racist, I've got an entire fact sheet here that is full of actual facts that I'm sure many right-wingers will say, oh, it's just a bunch of fake news. So you can go and look for yourself some of the things that these people say and some of the racial hatred that they incite. In most of the cases, do you think the person who's coming here from Syria, who happens to be a practicing Muslim, is coming here because they want to spread their culture to you? No. They're coming here because they want to work and they want to flee impoverished, dangerous conditions. And you just don't want them here because you just want this place to be white. You just want this place to be Finnish, and you're so scared shitless that your culture is getting sucked away. Let me tell you something, folks. I want everybody to hear this. Nobody is coming for your fucking culture, especially here in Finland. The Finns party is very dangerous. Their rhetoric is dangerous. The fact that they're cozying up to NCP, the National Coalition Party, Kokoomus, the people who are just repeating the same mistakes over and over again, the same mistake of taxing the rich higher, thinking that money is going to come down to the working class, and that's going to close the ever-widening income inequality gap here in Finland. People in America may look at Northern Europe and go, oh, wow, they must not have a big income inequality problem. Yes, there is a big income inequality problem here. There are a lot of companies that got super, super wealthy, even more super, super wealthy off of the pandemic. And those are the companies that should probably be taxed a little bit more for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of the workers who help prop the economy up, because without the workers, you don't have an economy to prop up. But nobody's thinking that way. And unfortunately, that's why I'm pretty certain that Perus will either be number 2 when they used, like, as recently as like 2011, nobody was even, I think they were like way down there in the parliamentary representation list. They're either going to be number 2 or they're going to be number 1, and it's not going to matter because they're going to team up with NCP, and they are going to ruin this economy as right-wingers do. I am failing to think of one right-wing economic policy that has actually worked in the long term for working people. They just don't, because all of the tax cuts go straight to the wealthy. And where do you think that money comes from? It comes out of the welfare fund. It comes out of social programs that people really need and really have come to rely on. And for some reason, they think that this system of governing the market is better. Like, if you tax the rich less, they'll hire more people. They'll innovate more. It's a big jerk off. It's all it is. It's a big jerk off. And just based on that notion alone, that NCP upholds neoliberal values, I'll never fucking vote for them, and I'll never encourage anyone to vote for them. But they're teaming up with these racist Finns. So now you're going to have the worst of both worlds, the worst economic policy and the worst social policies. I can't wait for April. Have a good day, folks.